Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hey, how you doing? We're back in studio. Thank you so much for joining us here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal out of Chicago. And hello to our friends listening late in the evenings on KKNW in Seattle. We're so thrilled to be a part of the team, and there's so much going on. I just sometimes I don't know where to start, but let's start with gratitude. Thank you, first of all, to you for joining us here. Thank you to our sponsors who make these conversations possible. Our friends at Source Solar do incredible work. Over 100,000 happy customers in the Chicagoland area. Go to source.solar and set up an appointment and see if the time is right for you to get solar panels on your house or your business. We also want to thank our friend, of course, Kirk Bankstead, who we spent the evening with last. That sounded weird. We were at his tap room and met with a lot of volunteers and folks who are doing the heavy lifting of organizing in Wisconsin. And then we went out and grabbed a little bit of dinner. I love this place called Sardine, and it is, as it sounds, a seafood place, and I don't get a chance to go out. Do I need that over a little bit? Is that all right? The camera? Oh, how does that get moved again? At any rate, so thank you to Kirk Bankstead and Minocqua Brewing Company. Please consider subscribing to their newsletter, to their Substack, and every order of woke that gets put in today supports the work that I do as one of their columnists. Every Monday, I do a Mocha Monday piece. This week's piece is about showing up at these town hall meetings, which I really do think is going to be a major component of moving the needle on MAGA, really, because there are Republicans. I don't know. Well, let me get to the end of my gratitude first before I get riled up again. Again, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. And our friends in Seattle, you also can order their products online, including some really cool swag, shirts and such. I have a Viva la Resistance shirt that I enjoy wearing very much. It's very soft. I also want to thank our friends at Are You Really Winning? You can go to areyoureallywinning.com. We've been collaborating with them as March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. If you or someone you love is struggling with a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit areyoureallywinning.com. So we are going to be speaking to one of our friends from Are You Really Winning tonight in the second hour. So looking forward to that conversation. And please consider also supporting the work that Kids Above All does. They help children live happy, healthy, safe lives, and they support families who are in need or in distress, in crisis. So go to kidsabovall.org. There's so many things in my mind right now that it's hard to grab onto something, because yesterday I decided that every post for a little bit would be just what happened with Signalgate, or I guess it's Whiskey Leaks is what we're calling it. What do you guys like? Do you like Signalgate is kind of straightforward. I think they're calling it that in DC as well. Whiskey Leaks. And part of me, there's an absurdity to it, right? That the journalist had been added. This guy Goldberg from the Atlantic, and I, the idea that somebody could be accidentally invited and included in a conversation about war plans, and then to make it, the Atlantic sucks. It's a terrible rag. It's a leftist organization. But they didn't. They didn't hack it. They were invited into the conversation and gay. I'm sorry. I see. I knew I was going to start yelling about this. Let me see. While I yell about this, maybe we'll do a little of that. So the thing is, no, it doesn't really go together, does it? The thing is that we laugh kind of about it because it's so freaking absurd. It also puts our men and women in the military in danger. That information about the kinds of planes that are going to be used, where the bombs are going to be dropped. And by the way, that takes the idea that it was shared is so consuming and such. But we were told that this was going to be the peace president. Right, so we're arguing about the Signalgate, but also what are we doing? Bombing a building for one person? So everybody else was just that it was worth the cost. But the reaction from the White House, the lies in front of committee yesterday with Tulsi Gabbard and all the people the three people that were on the panel. First, it was it wasn't confidential information. Well, then share it with us. That was what some of the legislators asked. Well, then give us the text. Well, it's confidential. No, you just said it wasn't confidential. So the journalist was like, they all just lied. Right. And apparently he contacted whatever officials. I don't know if he contacted the White House, but said, hey, here's the deal. I have all the texts. I have screenshots of everything. I saved all the information. And I assure you, not only is there classified information, there's also CIA personnel. A member of the CIA was on the chat. I know who that was. And apparently the reaction was, well, we'd rather you not share it. But if you do, could you please omit the CIA agent's information? And I mean, but that the reaction is that the Atlantic is a rag. What are we talking? What? That was his first reaction. Trump's first reaction to being told by the press, apparently. How did he? I feel like he found out after I did. I wasn't on the text chain. Oh, man. Jim, it's too early for me to start yelling already, Jim. Let's get to our calls, 773-763-9278. Please bear with me as there's so many things, because then there's also Social Security. There's a lot going on right now. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, Patti, what I'm going over in my 7 decades is the otherworldly experiences I've had in life. And I'll give you one in particular. I'm in the 5th grade, and I have a substitute teacher and a nun, an elderly nun. So she says, can I see you after class? I said, sure. So I sit down. She says, you're going to see a pornographer with a blue coat on, and she describes his features in detail. So I leave the classroom. I never heard the word pornography anyway. I've never heard it anywhere. So anyway, fast forward a decade later. I'm working as a bartender at the Hilton doing banquets and private business suite parties, right? So I've had many of these private suite parties, but this particular one is a porno suite party. And they've got all these porno people. This is like 1972. It's got all these men from, the chains and the shirts on that. So anyway, it goes on for 3 days. And the weird thing about it was usually they drink pretty liberally, but in this particular suite, they didn't drink at all. It was just, give me a Coke, give me this, give me that. And they stiffed me the first night, they stiffed me the second night. So the third day I'm there, and it's overlooking Lake Michigan, a beautiful bay window. And they're coming in and out of the suite. And who walks into the suite? Mm-hmm. This pornographer that this nun described to me in the 5th grade with the blue serge coat on, 2 bags. And she said he's going to have 2 bags, 2 plain shopping bags of pornography. That's exactly what he had. He came. I swear to God, Betty.
I don't understand how this nun was telling you this in the 5th grade. I'm not connecting this at all, Jim. What? Just like she was. She had a vision. Well, apparently.
Whoa! She picked me out to relay that message. And she described this individual to a T. And my point is, it's got me thinking of all the other worldly experiences I've had. I've had many, but that was on my mind the last couple of days.
Do you know what inspired this memory to come back to you? For that to be sort of rolling around for you?
Well, no, it's just the experience. It's just the experience of Trump as an otherworldly individual.
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm thinking of there's many in my life, but that one in particular, I was just thinking the last couple of days because it was so peculiar and.
Yeah, that's why you're like the last time you felt like this was when you saw that person in the blue switch.
I know it was the last one in the suite with the 2 bags of pornography, which I assumed they were pornography, 2 shopping bags. And she described them absolutely to the T, what he was wearing. Now, this is 10, 12 years later.
Right, but to bring it back to what's going on today, you're having that same sensation of this can't truly be happening. What experience? Right? I wish he would have warned you about the red hats, too.
Well, yeah, I don't think she would have had that kind of a vision. But anyway, when you think about your life, how many weird experiences you've had, but that's the honest to God truth. But anyway, that's what I feel like. I feel like when I look at the TV or any transmissions of anything, it seems to be as otherworldly, like we're in some other dimension of life. To me.
Yeah.
Anyway, Patti.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for
taking my call.
You feel like the planet's rolled off its axis. Andrew has some thoughts on Whiskey Leaks. Hey, Andrew out of Detroit. What's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, Patti. After listening to this stuff for a couple of days, I've got an opinion. over in Moscow, we've got Putin saying, you want me to stop bombing you? Give me everything I want and shut up. And then over in Israel, we've got Netanyahu saying, give me everything I want and get the hell out of this part of the world. I don't even want to see you again. And then we've got our president. I don't even know how I can say that about him. We've got this person in the White House that is saying about all non-white people, I don't like any of you. I don't like any of you. But the worst of you, you're going to go first, and the rest of you will follow. And also, somebody like me, that they can track what I've been saying on the air, what I've been saying. We're just going to get rid of people until we've got this, whatever Mike Johnson wants, this fake Christian religion. I don't know. Have I gone too far?
No, but you also, it's overwhelming to think about the scope of this and what they're doing. Look, as far as like being able to track us, you're talking about with your phone and having these conversations or what's on people's cell phones. Is that what you mean?
And I think none of this that happened was a mistake. They wanted it out there so those leaders in the other country could see we're doing exactly what you asked us to do. And also that it wasn't a leak. It wasn't a leak over here. They want us to know, too. Shut up and get in your place because you could be next.
Yep. I was talking about this last night, that I think that it was intentional. That, how exactly? Oh, I've got to run to the break there.
How?
Exactly. Thank you so much, my friend. Good to hear from you. You have a good evening, okay?
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation, taking your phone calls at 773. Oh, am I early on that? I was a little early on that. Well, before we go to the break then, let's have the music. I'll play it again in a second. But let me play, that one's a little bit long. You know what? Maybe I do this one. Is the Joel Ossoff, is this today's? Let me see.
Director Radcliffe, this was a huge mistake, correct?
No.
Oh. It was not a huge mistake?
A national political...
Hold on.
No, you
Let me answer.
No, Director Radcliffe, I asked you a yes or no question, and now you hold on. A national political reporter...
You can characterize it how you want.
...was made privy to sensitive information about imminent military operations against a foreign terrorist organization.
Inadvertent mistake of adding a reporter.
And that wasn't a huge mistake? That wasn't a huge mistake?
Well, I think they characterized it as
an embarrassment.
Yeah. I agree.
This is utterly unprofessional. There's been no apology. There has been no recognition of the gravity of this error.
I think since then, the guy in charge of, I can't remember which one, I think Michael Waltz has given an apology, said it's his responsibility. They needed somebody to put on the, put in the timeout corner. Let's take a break here. Continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal, and KKNW in Seattle. Thank you.
Stephanie Miller.
Bob Cesca joins us now.
Oh, God, shut down the internet. Can we just shut it down? We just got to unplug it. We need a timeout from the internet.
Yeah.
All of American society. I think, you know what? I say that half jokingly, but the other half is like, yeah. As someone who worked his entire career on the internet, I feel like we just weren't evolved enough. We weren't ready when it came along. Came along way too soon.
Stephanie Miller, weekday mornings 8 to 11 on WCPT 820. Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning We always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or
and Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Ooh, that was that's like a quick. It's not like a little bit after that. That was a new one. Thank you so much to Dan Levy and our friends here at the station, making some great audio. We're going through the phone calls. I want to set up another audio clip here before I get back to the phone calls because our own Congressman Mike Quigley sits on the Intelligence Committee. We've extended an invitation. They'll get back to us. Hopefully, he'll be able to join us tomorrow or Friday. Of course, today an extremely busy day at his office and in D.C. So let's see what.
I'll tell you why more people are worried about this than you might think, and that's Director Gabbard, your position was created post 9/11 because of the horrible intel failure that took place there. We weren't sharing information. It wasn't adequately shared within the community and between our allies. We have to believe that our allies look at this as a colossal mistake and will at least hesitate to a certain extent, wanting to share sensitive information with us that keeps us safe because they're worried about their sources and methods as well. Wouldn't you be at least somewhat concerned that our allies would look at this and say that wasn't the perfect way to communicate?
Congressman, thank you for the question. If that information that was put out in the chat by the Secretary of Defense had included specific sources and methods and targets and names, then the answer would be yes, but that was not the case.
Just language like this in a different context, okay? But just within your department, sir, your people are passing this information. Do you advise them maybe they don't use Signal on this? Are there other forms? Obviously, they're going to be more secure.
What I would offer is the data that we would be passing would be the full target packages and the full set of operational information.
Okay, but even if it was just this, do you really want to give the possibilities that they could be breached, hacked, and they would get this information? Wouldn't you, even with just this, sir, respectfully, wouldn't you want to use a more secure means of communicating?
I think what I would offer are two things, and hopefully they're helpful to you. One of them would be, in addition to that full package that we would talk about, when the Secretary extracted individual details from that and provided those on Signal, whether individually or in aggregate, that is his decision of what is classified and what is not from an operational aspect. And that's probably the most important relevant piece to there. And I would echo what we've said before. It's the Secretary's authority for the
just give me, there's more secure ways of communicating any of this, right?
There are, and our adversaries have
General, there are, right?
To intercept.
There's much more secure means that you use, even if you don't think that this is, or you don't want to stick your head on it.
What I would say is the full packages were transmitted within classified, within traditional classified.
But this could have been transmitted in a classified way as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So hopefully we'll get to check in with the congressman tomorrow or Friday. But I'm checking in with you guys. Thank you for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Let's get Roosevelt. Roosevelt, this is, one of our texters says, call it what it is, a national disgrace. Thank you, Teamster Brett. Roosevelt, what's on your mind? Are you hydrating?
Hey, I'm always hydrating. Always.
I got some 7-Up in my cup today. I needed something a little sweet today. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? Mexican pop is great. Jarritos. You ever have jarritos?
Sure. The orange, the mandarin orange is my favorite.
Oh, there you go. You're spoken like a true Mexican. That's what the real soul Mexicans like. Always
the mandarin orange.
Yeah, Mandarin. Hey, you know what? Sometimes I'm so mad. Because you know what? I believe, in my opinion, there's some key coincidences here. Let's take out of the equation Jeffrey, Goldberg? What's his last name?
Goldberg? Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic?
Let's take him out of the equation. Suppose he's not in. Okay? To me, that was a mistake on their part.
Sure.
But suppose he's not, let's examine all around without him in a picture. This guy, Witkoff, he's in Moscow.
Yeah.
Now, they're having this conversation, Patty, without him. He doesn't know. We don't find out. Okay? So what does that mean? That means that maybe Russia knew that this guy was coming to Moscow. I don't know about the conversation, but is it a far-fetched idea for Russia to be listening on this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, whether that's something that Malcolm Nance, I think, has. Let me see. Do you want me to play this clip of Malcolm Nance? Have you heard this one yet?
Oh, go ahead.
Here it is, right here.
This is the greatest breach in U.S. intelligence history, and here's why, Jody. I'm going to tell you why. Because if their phones are compromised, they're private phones, and I must assume they're compromised because we would have done it. We probably are doing it. But if their phones were compromised, they were carrying them into top secret meetings, the White House, their meetings with their boo, wherever that phone was, it is a transmitter, and that's what mobile phones are. When the mobile phone era started, we could not vacuum everything, so we started selective targeting of key individuals so that we wouldn't have to sift them out of the giant vacuum cleaner in the sky. This man, all of those people, their phones are compromised. Everything they have ever said in secret was either monitored or they know about or can get access to. We are so screwed here.
There you go. Yeah, we are so screwed here.
Well, that's just it, Patty. Why is it a coincidence that this guy is in Moscow at the time that these guys are having this, 19, I believe it was 19 of them. And to add to this is exactly what you were playing before. Tulsi Gabbard. She's lying to her face.
Yep.
That guy that you just played, he was also lying. And not to mention Secretary of Defense, the alcoholic guy, what's his name?
Hegseth.
All these guys should be gone, Patty. All of them.
Yep.
And you know why? Because you cannot. Do you feel comfortable with these people in charge?
There's not a single person that they've appointed, not a single one of these wealthy, entitled, whether it's McMahon at the Department of Education, whether it's RFK Jr. at Health and Human Services, Dr. Oz at Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, no, not a single one of these freaking fracking people is qualified to be where they are, having their hands on our information, on our security, on our support systems. I'm so angry about Social Security because they're going to close offices all over the country. At the same time they're closing Social Security offices, they're going to demand that people show up in person to places that are undermanned. Do you know that there are people in Pennsylvania that work at Social Security offices? They have 1,200 people that work at one place, and they've sold off the property and ended a lease. There's only 300 spots left for employees, so they're showing up at 4:30 in the morning in order to be able to go to work and do the job to make sure that senior citizens and people on disability and survivors have access to support. I'm so freaking, I didn't even get to that part today yet. They have zeroed out all of their expenses. People are running short on pens and papers. They can't do their jobs. The morale is low at Social Security. They know that 7,000 people are going to be fired. I'm sorry. And that's just Social Security. What's happening with Medicare, Medicaid, they're ending grants all over the country. And then these guys want to give away our intelligence. This isn't even amateur hour. This is, to our friend Andrew in Detroit's point, they're giving it all up to Russia. The fact that Witkoff was in Russia, participating in these texts. Yeah, it all smacks of just giving everything away to the oligarchy and Russia.
And you know what, Patty?
My head hurts.
You know what, Patty? We're getting a good idea, and I'm sorry to say this. Really, really sorry to say this. We're getting a good idea what it's like to be under a dictator, because this is exactly what we've always done in this country, and to criticize banana countries, banana republics, whatever you want to call it. And this is exactly what is happening in this nation. Sorry to say.
That's
but
all right.
There's got to be a price.
I got to try to get to
There's
one more.
gotta be a price.
I know.
Go ahead.
I know. No, people have got to start reacting. And it's got to, honestly, I think it's got to be MAGA. I think that people, it's not that I want to wait for them. I don't know how else this happens. You have to get public opinion on the same page. There isn't going to be a military coup. No one is coming to save us. Democrats are doing the organizing and trying to take care of ourselves. It's going to be the people that are hurting, because it's going to be red states that are most negatively impacted by eliminating the Department of Education, by dialing back and choking people off from resources like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the farm subsidies, all of these things. We're already hurting people all over the world, and honestly, people are going to have to feel it here. And it's not the roll over and die kind of thing. I think that Democrats are leading the charge, at least on this whiskey leaks. I got to run to the break. Thanks so much for joining me, Roosevelt. I'll get to more. Absolutely, I'll get to more phone calls a little bit later in the show, because right now we've got a guest coming in studio, and we'll talk about eye health. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW in Seattle, Washington. More after this.
Out Chicago.
How are you doing? I am immersing myself in as many positive experiences, i.e. theater, music, whatever I can do.
I keep going back to doing your joy homework.
Yes.
During this point, joy is a practice. And you have to actively seek out the things that bring you joy.
Catch Out Chicago every Sunday, 11 to 1 on WCPT 820. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Union Strong Chicago continues to lead the way with progressive values and in preserving democracy. Your support of the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC efforts in Wisconsin and beyond strengthens the fight against MAGA Republicans. You can now purchase progressive beers like Labor Lager, Love Wins Fruited Sour, and the Resistance IPA in Chicago at Rogers Park Provisions, Diversity Beer, Wine and Spirits in Lakeview, Park West Liquor, Wine and Beer in Lincoln Park, Logan Square Liquors, and Tip Top Food and Liquors in Westtown. Visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for all their Chicagoland locations. As always, no matter how bad our sports teams are, please drink responsibly.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we drive it home here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW in Seattle, Washington now, joining our family. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be a part of KKNW. We've got in studio with us Dr. Caitlyn McHugh-Glab, a good friend of my daughter. I guess it's always weird when I shouldn't even say that but that's how we've connected in the past. Yeah. But I was just telling the doctor as she came in that one of my favorite memories of going to see an eye doctor with my sons, and it was when we found out that Griffin, I don't know if I should say this, it's okay, here, let me put it this way, something that's genetic, so it's fine if I do it this way. My dad was colorblind, and I didn't realize that was genetic.
It is.
So it was fascinating to find that out, and it was just like, and it's just kind of one of those wild things, because our eyes are freaking fascinating, and they are part of our health, even though for whatever reason dental and eye health is sort of carved out. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
Yes, I grew up in Hoffman Estates, and I am an optometrist now. I'm in Buffalo Grove, so I have a practice over there and focused eye care. And
what got you interested in eye health?
I always knew I wanted to do something in the healthcare field. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but then I ended up shadowing an optometrist in Bloomington, Illinois, kind of a part when I was in college, and I just loved it. I just loved the patients. I loved the time you had with patients. I knew I wanted to work with kids, and I thought an eye doctor was a little bit non-threatening as far as, going in for an exam.
There's some stuff that's weird, but
we got the eye drops, but, pretty much it was I thought it would be a good way to kind of be able to connect with kids, and
And what was there anything when you started down this path that kind of surprised you? I mean, it's going to be medicine. There's always something you don't know. I bet you're still learning stuff along the way.
Yes, I would say it's interesting. every patient is different. I feel like, you think when you come into the eye exam, you're coming in to get glasses and that's it. It's really not. There's so much more that goes into it. Like you talk about with the eye health, when we're seeing a patient as an optometrist, we're looking at your glasses. That's very important, but that tells us so much more. We're checking the eye health of the inside of the eyes. We can see signs of diabetes. We can see signs of high blood pressure. We could, we can find if you're colorblind, things like that. So it's so much more than just, can I see? The number of patients that try to get up out of my chair after we do the glasses, I'm like, oh, we're just getting started. We got a lot more to do. So, yeah.
That's wild. That's wild. Now, tell me about the Myopia Collective.
Yeah. So the Myopia Collective is an initiative to bring awareness more about myopia to the general public and even optometrists in general. But I guess myopia in general is eye condition. So myopia is when you can't see far. Another name is nearsightedness.
Yes.
So my job is I'm actually a change agent for this Myopia Collective, and we are trying to bring more awareness to myopia and ways that we can actually help to slow it down and help to make an impact in children's lives. So myopia is, like I said, really just when you think myopia, I'm myopic. So I wear glasses. It helps me to see far. But when you are myopic, your eyes actually are longer than they should be.
Oh.
And what happens with this is that the retina, which is the seeing cells of your eyes, that can become compromised and it can cause damage if the prescription gets too high.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we are seeing so many more kids become nearsighted more quickly. And we now actually have ways that we can help to slow that down. Right. So this is something, my goal as kind of being part of this Myopia Collective and a change agent is to just get awareness out so that when a parent were to come in and if someone were to say, oh, your child has myopia or is nearsighted, that it's not the first time they're hearing about it, that they can make informed decisions to be able to help treat their child and to help to hopefully prevent and minimize risk for these serious eye conditions that have potential the higher the prescription gets.
Yeah, I have to say, both my husband and my son Griffin have extremely strong prescription glasses, and it's genetic. That seems to be because his mother was also like in second grade, and it was a great story too. I actually use it when I talk about Declan about how my mother-in-law said that when she was in second grade and they got her glasses, she was like, "Oh, those are leaves on trees." Like she just thought they were big blobs.
That's my story too.
Really?
When I was like in sixth grade, I first got glasses and I was like, oh, I didn't know. I knew trees had leaves.
Right.
I just didn't know you could see them.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How wild. It's the same story. Right. Because you're just driving by. And the reason I use that story is because so many people in your profession, and in particular like people who are assistants to people with disabilities and do that kind of work, like people will say thank you. And I feel like sometimes the work that you guys do, it's sort of like, it's my job or whatever. And I say, see the leaves. Right?
Yeah.
It's not just blobs, like blobs of thank yous. It's like individual thank yous.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so thank you for the work that you're doing
to
help parents be more informed. Because the more informed we are, it is less, because you almost feel like sometimes I'll bet there are parents who think, oh, did I wait too long to get their eyes checked too?
Yes. I hear that often. Yeah. And I always tell parents, like, you're here now. That's the important thing.
Right.
I mean, we do have a recommendation. The recommendation is between 6 to 12 months of age.
What? I didn't do that.
Not many people do. So that's okay.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, 6 to 12 months.
6 to 12 months, and then like 2.5 years or so.
Yeah, that's when
and
I
then
did the
before
boys,
kindergarten.
Yeah.
So that's, and the reason is that at 6 to 12 months, it's more of a baseline. I can get a full exam on an infant. I always say my favorite age is like 8 to 10 months. They're usually not so wiggly. We can get pretty good results on them. But we're also getting a lot of pediatricians that are doing these screening tools now. So I'm getting more kids sooner. But the reason is, like, when I get a child who comes in, let's say they have a prescription and they're like 2.5, unless it's wildly out of range, we're most likely not prescribing at that point. But it gives us, we're setting up to know what we need to do for them. Because most of their world, I mean, you need your vision to learn. We need that for school. So we actually, in Illinois, we have a requirement that before kindergarten, they do need an exam. So we're catching things so that they do have, that they're set up for success for school. Yeah.
And so with the Myopia Collective, how can folks learn more and what should they be, what should they be doing? I mean, because one, the screening, obviously, hopefully when they're infants, but if they're older, if they're 5, whatever.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, in Illinois, we have legislation that says you need to have screening. But tell us a little bit more about how folks can learn more too.
Yeah. So I would say, just every child should be getting an eye exam yearly. So I would say, asking your eye doctor if there's any questions. We have there's something, well, one of the websites that I think is helpful to learn more about myopia in general, there's something called MySight. So it's actually a contact that helps to slow the prescription down so they can help see, but also to make sure that their nearsightedness doesn't get too progress too quickly over time. So there's like mysight.com that has a lot of good information about myopia. You can search like pediatric eye care professionals near me and kind of find someone who can help. But yeah.
And you mentioned something about having a prescription that's too strong. Because I remember, so I'm slightly, my husband and my son make fun of me that my glasses, like, so I kind of feel like I wore glasses when I was in grade school because everybody else was. Yeah. Right. But I, kind of wanted it. But it was always just almost to this day, it's really just like for movies and driving and things like this. It's not too bad. So, but sometimes I'll get ones I'm like, these are, it's almost to the point of getting a headache. Like your new prescription, should they be giving you a headache if they feel that strong?
So when you get a new prescription, there does sometimes take some time to adapt to a new prescription. Right. So there's things that we do when we do an exam to try to help make sure that doesn't happen. But every once in a while, like I even say, like if I wear these glasses most of the time, if I wear a different pair, even with the same prescription, sometimes even the shape of the frame throws me. Okay. So I always tell our patients that if you get a new prescription, give it a week. If it's not if it still doesn't feel great, if you're feeling a little off, come back. We can always adjust it. So if it takes a little longer than a week, then maybe it does need to be adjusted.
If you're someone like me that doesn't have too strong a prescription yet, because it's starting to get a little more, and I'm starting to need cheaters. Sure, I'm only at like 1 or whatever. It's little. It's not too bad. I mean, for 53, it's not too bad. I don't think.
No, not at all.
Right, but is for folks who like can kind of that it's not bad. Is it helpful? Is it okay to like just put them on when you need them? For being nearsighted. Yeah. Nearsighted.
Yeah. I always tell patients that it's never going to like hurt you really, but you might get some strain, you might get fatigue, things like that. So I always want you to see as your clearest and your best, but if it's not feeling discomfort, then it's okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm getting headaches. Can you get headaches from not seeing very well? Oh.
Your eyes are straining. Potentially, that could be a sign.
Well, it's so funny. When you don't wear them all the time, you're not sure what things are supposed to look like.
Yes. That's how I tell people, too. I say, when I talk about, like, what like glasses versus not, it's like you have a TV that's like an old TV and it's like it looks fine, but then you see one of those new TVs like, that's what it's supposed to look like. Like that's what it is like when you wear glasses.
I hate high def. Can I just tell you right now how much I hate high def?
Some people say like, I don't want to see in high def.
I never needed to see people's pores on the sides of their nose. I never needed any of that. I never needed to see someone's color job going out on their hair. It's too intense. There's a listener named Doug. Can you ask your guest if you're feeling... I'm sorry, Doug, can you rewrite the question? How do you test? And I mentioned this on the way in. Sure. Because my son is nonverbal, and he got his first eye test when he was about 2.5 years old or so. And I actually don't even know how she did get him to sort of cooperate in the chair, but it's not that easy. But for someone who's special needs and nonverbal as an adult, how do you work for that, or who do you recommend folks sort of seek out those professionals?
Yeah, so that is something, like, I am comfortable seeing patients like that. I mean, I feel like it just kind of depends on the practitioner, but there are ways that we can get an exam without any feedback. So I'm able to get a prescription, I'm able to assess the health of the eyes, and it's just about making the patient comfortable. And yeah. So there are ways, like, just because you can't, maybe they're not able to tell you what they can see. Like we always think of like, tell me what the second line says, what the third line says. So that evaluation is like sort of through a snapshot. Yeah, there's a technique called retinoscopy. So we basically can measure the prescription using light to very accurately measure the prescription without any feedback. So that's how I would do that for patients who are nonverbal.
And the hard part with Declan is, we've done those evaluations. The thing for him is, don't worry about the text. I voice a text too. I do the same thing. So that's why it came out. Like I'm the same way. How anybody reads anything I put out there, I have no idea. At least I'm not on Signal with the CIA. At any rate, can you imagine that was all voice a text? And like, at any rate, not part of this conversation. For Declan, like regardless of what it is, he would never wear glasses. Like he's very tactile. So that's also a challenge too, right?
Yeah. That is, and I tell parents as well that sometimes you'd be surprised that sometimes if the prescription is significant, that putting those glasses on can
surprises
be
them.
yes,
right. And they go,
yes.
oh,
they're like, oh, they don't want to take them off, and so that is something that happens sometimes.
Oh, excellent. So how do you? Okay, so for the Myopia Collective, and again, I want to thank you for sharing this information with us. The initiative is aimed at rallying the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and realize a new standard of care for children with myopia. Because I think that we sort of minimize that as a visual disorder because they can read.
Yes, and I think that is where we are heading. So my concern when I have a patient who is myopic, that first of all, yes, I want them to be able to see, but I'm thinking 30, 20 years down the road that if their prescription becomes higher, like a -6, -7, their risk of getting sight-threatening diseases increases significantly. So while I'm concerned for this child in my chair who can't see their board, I'm thinking that when they're 50 years old that they all of a sudden have a retinal detachment because their prescription's too high. So that's what we're concerned about.
Let's talk more about that when we come back.
Yeah.
We are talking to Dr. Caitlyn McHugh-Glab, who is my saying Glab the right way?
Yeah.
Excellent. She's a change agent for the Myopia Collective. You can go to Focus. How do I say what's the website?
Focused Eye Care BG.
Focused Eye Care BG. We'll continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW in Seattle, Washington. Sorry, everybody. So many letters and names.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
We need to speak out about this.
At 773-763-9278.
Hello.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
We are taking your calls if you have any questions in this segment for our doctor who joins us, Dr. Caitlyn McHugh-Glab, who is a change agent for the Myopia Collective, a new initiative aimed at rallying the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and realize a new standard of care for children with myopia. And you mentioned that one of the things is you are looking forward for these kids, and so that they are not 50 and all of a sudden having a retinal detachment. Like what? So I've known a few people. I used to work with a woman at another station who had in her 40s had a retinal detachment. So tell us a little bit how that, is that just from the wear and the strain?
So when you're a myopic, your eye gets too long. It elongates, and that it causes strain on the retinal cells, and it can basically stretch. The retina isn't meant to stretch that way, and then it can cause tears and cause a detachment. So what we have now, there are actually different techniques that we can use. There's contact lenses, there's eye drops that we can use for children that they can actually slow the prescription down and try to save some of this prescription, because the lower nearsighted you are, the less likely your risk is.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it can make a big difference.
And is it? Please tell me it's never too late, because, like I said, I have a 21-year-old who has, but it seems like they're both. They have they can't see close or far.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a time frame. So we do have usually between younger ages 8 to 12 is kind of when we see the biggest jump in prescription, and it can still change, but that's kind of when we're trying to focus on. So we're trying to focus on those ages. Like so, for instance, there's this contact lens called MySight where it's a soft daily contact. They wear it during the day, and then it helps them see, but also helps to slow the prescription down. And so that's actually FDA approved for ages 8 to 12 at starting. So I have children who are 8 wearing these contacts, and they do really well. But this is so that I have seen change where they were changing, I've seen them a year before and then to here, and then they had from -1 to -2, and they've been like really slow, really stable with these lenses. So it's a great way for us to be able to help these children in a fun way. The kids love wearing the contacts, and it's they really do.
Maybe it's better to start sooner, because my son he'll wear them once in a while. It was something. Plus, he does a lot of theater projects, so he wants to be able to look different rather than having he has these. He did have the Ray-Ban, the sort of heavy framed, sort of retro looking ones. So he likes to switch it up a little bit. But I think that a lot of us didn't realize that you could slow down the deterioration of vision through different, whether it's drops or these contacts. The other thing is, of course, I'm sure there are people who scroll and they see folks who tell you, the exercise, the eye exercises and things like that, where if you focus on something close and look at something far and those things.
Yeah, so there is something called vision therapy. So vision therapy is great. It's great for patients who are having different types of eye conditions. That is very it works very well when it's in the right setting. Doing kind of things like here and there, probably not doing too much, but it is.
Yeah, if you're doing it with consistency
and guidance, yeah.
So I saw you nod when I said scrolling. So tell me about what our screens are doing to our eyes.
Yeah, I mean, we want to avoid screen time as much as you can. I mean, I know that's like nearly impossible. And what we do know now, too, for myopia, that yes, there's genetic components, but yes, there's also lifestyle components. So whether that's near work and things like that, there's not a true hard and fast rule on that. But, and I talk to parents, their kids are in school on their iPads at school, and then they come home and they're on their iPads. So I always say taking breaks, have a good working distance, spending time outside. We know spending time outside is great. Seriously, I'm like, go in the sun. When a little bit of sun we get here, like try.
Yeah. This has inspired a couple more questions. Blue blockers. Sometimes I'll wear blue blockers just when I get migraines. So sometimes I'll wear like these orange glasses that make me feel so much better. So those are
Yeah, I would definitely say with different tints, it can definitely help patients with things like maybe migraines and things like that. Blue blockers, you're getting blue light from the sun as well. So, I mean, it's not something that I'm like actively recommending to every patient, but it does help some people.
So that moves us on to sunglasses. So I'm a habitual, I love wearing sunglasses. So because I lose them all the time, I just buy them at the dollar store. And now I read the dollar store ones not, because I heard it's because of the difference between like wearing those sort of inexpensive ones and then you go outside and that change and what that does to your eyes is not healthy.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but as long as it's having UV protection and it's from a reputable source, we want UV
Dollar
protection.
General is a reputable source.
If it has a UV sticker on it, I mean, that should be fine. We want UV protection and usually just good coverage. That's what we want protection for.
So that the reason that I wear sunglasses a lot, like even in here is a little bright for me. Yeah. I think that, and I'm not sure, but I think I used to be a lifeguard. And I didn't want to have raccoon eyes. Okay, this was a part of the sort of ego thing. So I didn't wear sunglasses. And here I had like the sunlight reflecting off the water. I was at the beach, and that's not smart, is it?
I mean, sun can definitely. We know that sun impacts our eyes in many different ways. Yeah. So using sun protection is my number one thing for a lot of conditions.
Yeah, because I'm super sensitive to light now, and I don't remember being that way.
Gotcha.
I mean, although I'm also a comic, so I spend a lot of time in the evenings. So I'm like a vampire. It burns me. We have a listener who wants to join the conversation. Sure. Let me get to Paul in Seattle. You were on with Dr. Caitlyn McHugh-Glab. How are you doing, Paul?
Good, thanks. I was just going to say.
I'm sorry.
To Doctor. I have advanced stage retinitis pigmentosa, and I was diagnosed before the year I went into kindergarten, which was 1964. And awareness was really not very good in schools then. So I could never see in school. I could never see the board all the way through high school. And but if people don't, the understanding of what blindness really is was not very. The people were not aware that blindness is not just like closing your eye. So I appeared to be normally sighted. I could play and go outside and stuff, and I just couldn't see detail. The chalkboard. The worst thing for me was seeing a chalkboard, and because the contrast was so bad, and everyone knows what a dusty chalkboard with glare on it is terrible even for normally sighted people. But I had to develop a super duper memory to get through school, and eventually re-educate myself altogether when I finally got into college and kind of had my own say about things. But anyway, what I wanted to call about is this issue with the security breach. And Pete Hegseth, I think, doesn't everybody get this, that if nothing else, Pete Hegseth should have to undergo a full independent alcohol and drug assessment?
there weren't even clearance background checks on these folks, right? They decided that they were just going to sidestep that. Qualifications, viability, none of these things, professionalism, none of that was screened at all. It was just put my guys in.
He essentially acknowledged that he has a drinking problem when he said, I'll stop drinking if I'm confirmed as a secretary. Now, nobody who doesn't have a drinking problem says that, right? It's not something you don't make a deal, I'll stop, but otherwise I'll just keep getting, hammered every night. And he is exhibiting classic alcoholic behaviors. Like he's lashing out, he's denying that this even happened, and then he's attacking the person, Jeffrey Goldberg, who made everybody aware that this took place. He's saying he's a so-called journalist who peddles in trash, and this is exactly what alcoholics do. And it's like there's no surprise. There's no surprise here that. And I'll tell you another one is this Tom Holman. This guy slams together syllables like a train wreck. That this guy is so addled that he just slurs every sentence. I can understand what he's saying.
I was noticing that. I was noticing that too. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'll have more time at 6:30 if you want to call back and we can go on about whiskey leaks again.
Okay.
Because I got to wind down this segment. Thank you so much, Paul in Seattle. Thank you. Yeah, that's the thing too. I know Paul has talked often about his vision issues, and so I want to encourage folks again. Where in addition to seeking out the Myopia Collective, tell folks some of the resources, including coming to your website as well.
Yeah, so I would, we're local. We're in Buffalo Grove. I would also say, looking in Illinois, we have our Illinois Optometric Association. We have different doctors that are affiliated there. Just kind of doing a quick Google search too, just kind of seeing who's in the area, finding your local optometrist. Most of us see patients of all ages. I see as young as 6 months and as old as whoever will see me. So, yeah.
Yeah. My mom has the coolest glasses, and I look forward to talking to you again, having you back, because I think that we sort of shortchange our appointments for our eyes and for our teeth, but with vision, it also seems like it would affect, if you don't mind me asking, like your mental health too, because it's kind of miserable to not see well.
Absolutely. I definitely, I know I'm an optometrist, but we talk a lot about patients, they're every day. And I feel like when your vision is impacted, it can be a lot. Yeah. So it's definitely something that I know how important it is for me to help these patients and however we can. But yes, it definitely is. It definitely can be personal and emotional.
Well, I love that you seem very passionate about the work that you do. We should all be so blessed to follow through on our dreams. And you did a great job of educating people today and sharing this information. And we'll learn more in the months to come and check in with you again. And folks, if you had a question that maybe, because sometimes people think of a question afterwards, write it down somewhere. So when we talk to Dr. Cynthia McHugh-Glab again, we can catch up. Well, Caitlyn, sorry. You nodded to the wrong name. That was very nice of you. You were very patient. I was like, that didn't sound right.
Me.
Sorry. Got a lot of stuff in my head. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful evening. I think I might have some stuff for you to take. I don't know if you like beer, but I think I've got some Minocqua Brewing Company products I can share with you. Great. More after this. We're gonna talk to our friends from Are You Really Winning? Coming up next, we're gonna have a guest on the phone. We are going to talk to Elizabeth Thielen, who is the Senior Director of NICASA Behavioral Health Services. So that's coming up next, and then we're gonna have Tom Appel in studio. So I'm gonna try to get to your call somewhere in here as well. So I'll talk to you in a second off the air. More after this on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal, and KKNW in Seattle, Washington. We're so thrilled you're here.
Hey, Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. And we want to say hello to our friends listening in the evenings on 1150 KKNW in Seattle, Washington. So glad to be a part of your alternative talk family. We also want to say hello to our friends on AM 950 KTNF in Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Of course, we are here out of Chicago on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. We're grateful for all of our sponsors. We want to say hello to our friends Peter and Warren from Source Solar. Go to source.solar and make an appointment to see if it's time for you to get solar panels on your house or business. Over 100,000 happy customers throughout the Chicagoland area. And last night we were lucky enough to meet some great organizers in Wisconsin as we broadcast live from the Madison Tap Room from Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. Please subscribe to the newsletter, because if you order some Woke Coffee today, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, if you order Woke Coffee, it helps support the work that I do there, writing columns every Monday for Mocha Monday. And we also want to thank our friends at Kids Above All. Go to kidsaboveall.org to support their mission to help children live happy, healthy, safe lives. And our newest sponsor to the show that we've been really honored to collaborate with is Are You Really Winning? With the Way Back In. March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. And joining us on the air, we're going to have a conversation about this. And I know folks are kind of like, well, this is something I want to make sure that people understand. And I want to keep having these conversations beyond these interviews. And today we are honored to be joined by our friend from Are You Really Winning, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, how do I pronounce your last name, my friend?
It's Thielen.
Thielen, Senior Director for NICASA Behavioral Health Services. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And first of all, let me learn a little bit about you. Where are you from, my friend? Where'd you grow up?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in New York State, but I've been here in the Chicagoland area for over 20 years.
What brought you to Chicago, the Chicagoland area?
Just family. You know, we moved all around the country and ended up here, and I love it.
Oh, I'm glad you. I always love when people love our neck of the woods. That's fantastic. And is behavioral health studies something that you were interested in when you were young? What led you to this field?
Well, you know, I have a strong family history of addiction, so it made sense for me to kind of pursue this pathway as an addictions counselor. And so it's something that I've been doing for over 25 years.
Wow. And that's one of the reasons when we talked to our friends from the way back in that I wanted to make these connections, because my father was, there were so many things. It was just something that he started smoking when he was 12. He was an alcoholic. When he quit drinking, he started gambling. And this was something that I think we don't talk enough about. I've talked about it a few times on the air, and the looks on people's faces when I tell them that, you know, he went from trying to chase a $10,000 loss to then becoming $50,000 in the hole, and then having to claim bankruptcy, taking out credit cards in my name, my mom's name, without telling us. When I realized that they're surprised because nobody really talks. Like, we don't realize we have people in our lives that are struggling with this, right?
Absolutely. It's something that has been called the silent addiction. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a person with lived experience myself. I had a parent with alcoholism. I've defended myself against addiction my whole life. I don't drink. I've never used drugs. And guess what? Gambling got me, because nobody talks about it. I didn't even see it as something that was risky, and it got me. I'm 14 years or so gambling free now, but this is something that I suffered in silence with for a long time because it was something that nobody really talked about or understood. And so Problem Gambling Awareness Month is part of the effort to get this in the public eye, because there's hardly any of us now that don't know somebody, at least peripherally, that's struggling with this.
Yeah, and again, and we might not know. And I've talked about this before too, because it was also for me sort of I didn't, for whatever reason, it makes me uncomfortable, and I don't know if it was because of my childhood, because I had seen it as a kid as sort of socializing. My dad would play poker and literally smoke-filled rooms, and I'd sit on his lap and feel really cool, like I was helping him or something. And right? Isn't that kind of like a lot of us have that experience growing up, or going to the racetrack? It was his way of babysitting me, and it wasn't until I was older. Do we, when you say that it's the silent addiction, do you have some references for folks who, like, sort of the soft way in, I guess, because people get defensive when they think that they're being attacked about something that they're struggling with, and they don't know they're struggling.
Right. And, we always talk, it's Problem Gambling Awareness Month, right? So we use this word problem that's very kind of like off-putting, and it would put people on the defense. So as much as that's what we're talking about, I really like to say, like, that's what the Are You Really Winning campaign is about. It's really like, hey, checking in. How's it going? I've heard that this can sometimes not go as planned for people, and sometimes people can really struggle with it. Have you checked in with yourself and seen how it's going? There's on that website, areyoureallywinning.com, there's a self-assessment tool that people can take, and that's a very healthy thing to do if you're using any sort of addictive product. Check in from time to time. How's it going? Is this what I planned for it to be? Am I engaging in a different way with it than I thought I would? Maybe it's time to take a step back, take a break from it, maybe make some changes.
And what are some of the signs for that we can maybe be on the lookout for somebody who's struggling with a gambling issue?
Right. And so, one, it is very hard to spot, especially when we're talking people with online gambling. So they could just be on their phone and you think they're, checking out Facebook or something, and maybe they're gambling, right? So it's hard to spot. But some things that you can look out for is, are they getting really stressed out? It is a very stressful thing to be in a disordered gambling state, right? You're trying to figure out, how do I pay my bills? How do I pay back these people that I owe money to? I haven't paid the car payment. What if my car gets taken? So very stressful. So you see people kind of under distress, and you don't know why. But the biggest sign to look out for is borrowing money. Is one of the only things that you can really notice. And you have somebody who should otherwise be doing okay, but they're kind of not, And with that, just to say, hey, I noticed that this is happening. Like, this happens to a lot of people. Have you talked to anybody about it? Because I hear there's resources to really kind of, get a handle on it.
Yeah, I think that's important to know. That's a key one, because I was only 23. My dad was borrowing money from me. I took and I didn't know that he had taken a credit card already out on my name, had maxed that, whatever it was that he had owed on that, and then asked me for $2,000. I actually opened I still have a credit card with this bank because I opened it when I was 23 years old to lend him $2,000.
Wow.
So I know,
Yep.
and it's just one of the things. It's like your dad. But here's the thing, folks, and I get it. It's your someone you love. Of course, you're going to do everything because you don't realize that it's happening, and you're being kind of drawn into that. And it can have. I mean, it still continues to affect us, and that was in 1994.
Right. Yeah, and definitely, and people don't think about that impact to the people who care about the person, right? So there's financial, can be like betrayals for just behavior and lies and stuff like that. But there's support and resources out there for the loved ones too. I mean, even in ICASA, we have what's called an Affected Others group, and it's only once a month, but it's something that's free. It's open to the public, where loved ones of people who are struggling can come together, get some education and support and resources to kind of heal themselves, because this is not something where it's only the person who's suffering. The people who care about them can be suffering too.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that we sort of, make it such a draw. I mean, like the casinos are in it to draw as many people in as possible. And so, I mean, like my dad's thing was he would get these letters. He got like a credit for the buffet, or you could have, we have transportation for you to get to the casinos. They have a lot. Like it's sort of like, oh, I'm a VIP. They get those kinds of cards, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Who doesn't want to feel important? Who doesn't want to feel like they're welcomed and wanted, right? So, a lot of these, products or places make people feel like they're winning when they're not. And so that's, again, a part of this campaign. Are you really winning? To check in on how is it actually working out for you? It might feel like it's going one way. How's it actually working out? What are the repercussions for your finances, for your family, that sort of thing?
I want to ask you some more questions about the campaign, Are You Really Winning? I also want to know more about NICASA. And I'm looking at the website now, right now. Is it not NICASA or NICASA.org?
NICASA. Yep, NICASA.org.
And tell us a little bit about this organization.
Yeah, so we've been in Lake County since 1966, providing a lot of different behavioral health services, but we've been providing gambling services since 2002, so we're not new to this. We really care about it. As soon as, there was more gambling opportunities around in the community, that's when we started providing outreach, awareness, and treatment services. And, we do individual group counseling, family counseling. We have a locked page on our website just for our clients where they can do online skill building, even use virtual reality to learn stuff and practice skills. So we'll offer software for people who want to step back from online gambling or online sports betting, and we'll pay for that for a full year for them so they can protect their cell phones and their tablets and their laptops from online gambling. So it's something that we are so passionate about, and we're so honored to walk alongside people who are trying to make some really difficult changes in their lives.
And when you say that there's also support for family members, so go to the website as well, folks. It's NICASA.org for more information. And again, I've said this before. I think there's also shame. There's fear. There's fear of trying to approach somebody and say, hey, I heard this on the radio, and maybe that's your way in, folks. This loudmouth comedian on the radio was talking about gambling, but right? I mean, like, this could be a conversation starter for you. But it is, the fact that this is folded into mental health support, I think is really what we need to focus on. This is compassionate care. There's not judgment in this. Yeah. This is simply care, right?
Right. This can happen to anybody. I mean, we know that alcohol and drugs can catch people, and some other people might have a controlled relationship. This is no different. And actually, the neuroscience behind this tells us it is very, very similar. So the dopamine receptors in the brain are acting as if they were stimulated by a substance. So we really do need to kind of tackle that shame and stigma that comes with it. There's actually an art contest going on right now to try to raise awareness that I think is so cool. So if there's artists that you don't even have to know anything about gambling, learn about it. Learn about what the process from addiction to recovery looks like for somebody with gambling concerns, and create an art piece that speaks to people, because we need to talk about this. We need to understand what it is like. And I will tell you, the second place winner for last year to me speaks to me, and it's because I identified with it. It was like a doily or like a piece of lace that looked beautiful on the surface, but when the light shone through it, the shadow said, "Send help." And I got chills when I saw that, because that was me. I had the smile on. I was going to work. Everything looked great. And inside, I was really suffering. And so this campaign has the ability to kind of tackle that stigma and try to, make it understandable that just real people experience this.
We are talking to Elizabeth Thielen, who's the Senior Director for NICASA Behavioral Health Services. You can go to nicasa.org, NICASA.org. We're going to continue our conversation in just a moment here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal in Chicago, KKNW 1150 Seattle, Washington, and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. We're also glad that you're here. More after this.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway, or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk or Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Coming up at 6:30, we're going to check in with Car Guy Tom with breaking news about auto tariffs. So we'll check in with him about that. I know we have a listener on hold. I'll take your call as well in just a little bit, my friend. Right now, we are talking to our friends from NICASA, Elizabeth Thielen, who's the Senior Director for NICASA Behavioral Health Services. Thank you so much for this time, by the way, and for the work that you do as we talk about not just Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Actually, Doctor, talk to us a little bit about this campaign for March as a campaign to really highlight this issue.
As we mentioned, people are not talking about this, but people are living it and really struggling with it. So we've got to get the word out. Over the years, Problem Gambling Awareness Week turned into Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and I think we need to talk about this all year round, which is why we do what we do. But there has been themes every year. In the past, it's been have the conversation, right? Just talk about this because this exists, right? And this year, it's seeking understanding, and it's really to try to tackle some of those misunderstandings and some of the stigma and shame related to gambling disorder. It's not about being weak-willed. It's not about being irresponsible or stupid. This happens to real people who, and you mentioned, you and I had a lot of similar experiences playing cards at home. I used to go to the track with my parents and help them pick the horses, you know? So even underage access to gambling is a predictive factor for developing a disorder, right? Like, we don't know that. We know if we give a 12-year-old alcohol, they're likely to develop a problem with it later on. We don't know that about gambling, but we do it. We help them to sports bet. We give them lottery tickets. And these are things that the brain, studies are really showing us are very, very risky. And so there's reasons that people fall into disordered gambling. And some of it has to do with the early exposure, hereditary stuff. Can it be mental health conditions that are predisposing them and making them more vulnerable? There's a high comorbidity between gambling disorder and depressive disorder, anxiety, and post-trauma, right? So, like, we know that people who have other addictions sometimes suffer a lot of trauma in their history, and they're coping with substances. Well, sometimes people are coping with gambling, and we can't just say, oh, you chose to gamble. You didn't have to do that. You don't know their circumstances. You don't know all the very, very complicated factors that led to them engaging in that way with that product.
And what are some of the barriers? I mean, like, there's the stigma. There's also, I guess, the lack of information is a barrier for treatment. Are there any other things that we should be aware of that we can help someone navigate through this?
Oh, definitely. So one, just letting people know about the areyoureallywinning.com website, because there people can do the self-assessment. They can see what treatment is available. They can learn about self-exclusion. They can look for signs and symptoms. They can also call 1-800-GAMBLER, and that's 24/7, and it's no matter where you are. So you can, go across state lines, and you're going to get through to somebody. And it's just really important information. And I will tell you that right now, Illinois is second in the nation for utilization of the 1-800-GAMBLER helpline.
Wow.
That may seem dire, like, oh my gosh, what's happening in Illinois? And for sure, people are suffering. But a big part of it is this campaign. People are starting to ask for help because they know help's available. And we can all help make that more likely. Draw attention to it. Say, I listened to this lady on the radio. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know. And I'm going to give you some stats. 1.1 million adult Illinoisans are experiencing some sort of distress related to gambling, with 383,000 of them meeting the criteria for gambling disorder or gambling addiction. So it's a lot. It's not a little. So that's something people can use as a conversation starter.
Well, it also, I appreciate that National Problem Gambling Awareness Month is in March, where we have this bombardment of NCAA games, both men and women's basketball. Because everywhere I went over the weekend, the TVs were on. I saw my team absolutely get shellacked, University of Illinois, out in the first round. But talk a little bit about like culturally, like this is going to be sort of fast and quick every single weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And so it's fast and furious. We've got all these events, and it goes beyond basketball. We've got all the NCAA sports. I watched the NCAA wrestling tournament. It was spectacular because I got a wrestler in the home, and so that's our sport here in this house. So it's available, and there's a lot of excitement around it, and there's not an understanding that young people shouldn't be participating in the betting aspect of it. Help them to understand this is really exciting, and we can just enjoy it by watching it and getting all the highs and lows that come with being a sports fan. So, the speed at which we can place bets now is really kind of a problem. Like, we know with substances, the quicker that substance hits your brain, the more addictive that product is, right? So if you're betting on a game and it's in 2 weeks, that's a different speed than I'm betting on the outcome of this match, and I'm betting who gets the first takedown or who gets, the first basket. So there's all these opportunities to place bets in a very fast manner, which is our brains get very, very stimulated by that. So, and I'm not saying nobody should engage in sports betting. There's ways to do it in an informed and thoughtful way, but it doesn't come naturally. It's something that we kind of need to prepare for and learn about. And that's why places like Picasa and some of the other providers are willing to meet with people. Hey, you want to do this? Let's learn about it. Let's learn what your particular risk factors are so you can be intentional and informed in making decisions about this.
Absolutely. We have a listener who would like to ask a question. This is David from San Francisco. I hope you don't mind taking a question. Is that all right?
Sure, go. No problem.
Hi, David. You're on with our friend from NACASA. You're on with Elizabeth Thielen, the director of NACASA Behavioral Health Center Services. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, thanks, Patty and Elizabeth. Out here in San Francisco, we had one of our biggest radio talk show stations recently, about 6 months before Election Day, turned into a sports gambling station. And BAM, and we're not far from Silicon Valley. And, if you're a gambler, you know that there's a whole lot of online gambling. And the results of our election turned into a kind of a rout for progressives. And I've wondered ever since whether or not gambling debts could be bartered for voting for the wrong candidate.
Yikes.
Kind of famous.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any information on that, but it's an interesting question. Have you come across anything like that when it comes to elections and gambling? I know that
I have.
Yep.
Yeah, I have not, but you know what I have seen? I've seen companies coming out with ways to place bets on things like the outcome of the elections or the Grammys and stuff like that. And this is a real serious concern when we have gambling behavior, which should be a sanctioned and regulated and hopefully somewhat of a safe place, right? And it's kind of like free for all. It's open to anybody, and we're normalizing that this is just something you do. So that's a big concern. And you talk about the technology. If you can place a bet on your phone, and that same phone you can take a loan out on, and you never have to leave your home to lose money that you haven't even earned yet. We're in a situation now where people are getting hurt really quickly. And so, again, it comes down to being thoughtful, being intentional, being informed, being prepared, and recognizing gambling is not for everybody. And it's not for everybody at all times in their life. And it comes in many forms, some that we might not even recognize. We have people who are very involved in day trading and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency trading. And sometimes they can experience gambling-like behaviors when they're engaging in these things versus a more kind of deliberate, strategic approach.
I want to thank you so much for enlightening us and informing us. And again, folks, the organization, the services that with Elizabeth Thielen that she works with as a senior director for NICASA Behavioral Health Services, that's NICASA, NICASA.org. You can also, if you or someone you love is struggling with a problem gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit areyourreallyWinning.com today. And I want to thank you again for really sharing this with us and breaking these conversations wide open. I wish you the very best and look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks. Have a good day.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye. We're going to continue our conversation. Tom Appel, Car Guy Tom, join us in studio. We'll also try to get to your phone calls. Thank you for calling David from San Francisco. We appreciate that. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 Seattle, and AM 950 KTNF Minneapolis, St. Paul. That's so much fun to say.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our conversation on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and KKNW 1150 in Seattle, Washington. Thank you for making us a part of your alternative talk team. And, of course, we're broadcasting here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. You can also live stream us on Facebook and YouTube, where you'll see my good friend, Car Guy Tom Appel. Hey, Tom, you're here with breaking news now. Holy cats.
Breaking news, horrible news, distressing news, and I don't know what to make of it.
Okay, you do look very concerned. Like you prefer you usually are not this concerned.
No, because this is the least easy to decipher news ever. But the White House has announced that it's going to move forward with 25% tariffs on, and the quote is, cars not made in the United States, which I assume is all imported vehicles and will include cars from Canada and Mexico. Mm-hmm. So this is a big mess.
Well, Tom, MAGA will tell you that we're just bringing our tariffs up to the international levels that other countries impose tariffs.
Here's the nugget of truth in that. Europe, the EU, does charge 20% for cars imported from the U.S. to the EU.
Okay.
We only charge 2.5% the other direction. That's true. Here's the thing. We don't import any cars to Europe, and it's not because of the tariff. Western Europe has no appetite for American automotive products.
Our big beastly cars?
Right, exactly.
You can't park on their streets because they have old world streets.
No, the average size of a car in Europe is like a Volkswagen Golf. We don't build cars like that, and we never build cars like that well.
Yeah.
So and Volkswagen is always there with really good small cars.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, it was my friend Jerry just got a Honda Fit, which I love.
Uh-huh.
Like I just rode in it over the weekend, and I thought I can't believe they discontinued this car.
Yeah, the Fit was I'm trying to think of the name of it, the HX, but which is a small crossover, roughly the same size. But Americans just don't buy things that small.
Yeah.
Through history, 80s, 90s, and there are things like the Ford Fiesta, the Ford Festiva, the Hyundai Accent, these cars.
I did like the Fiesta was cool. The Focus was nice, too.
They were fun.
They were. Well, to your point, though, the idea that we're bringing it to the same levels, but there's no demand for our cars because they're not buying Dodge Rams. They're not buying the big, the Tahoes and things like that. They don't have the capacity for that.
They don't have, then the streets don't fit them.
Yep.
They're expensive. And traditionally, fuel's been very expensive in Europe, too.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense to import a car that gets 14 miles per gallon.
Right.
You wouldn't do that.
So we were talking, you mentioned before we came on about, was it Acura that makes cars in Mexico? And so they'll
Audi.
I
Yeah, this
heard
is
both ways.
interesting because Audi doesn't build any cars in North America, except for Mexico, where they build the Q5, which is an extremely popular vehicle, and Audi's bread and butter in the U.S. And now with a 25% tariff on that, I mean, this is just one example of how bad this is going to be. If in fact it lingers. And automakers, they were preparing for this, and Ford was famously pulling ahead supplies to build cars so they wouldn't have to pay tariffs on those supplies. But you can only do that for a week or a month or something like that. It's not a long-term scalable plan. And the thing that's ridiculous about this is that it takes 2.5, 3 years to move production capacity from someplace to someplace else. And even if we did that, we took a plant, General Motors has a big plant, they're building EVs down in Mexico. If we move that to the U.S., it's going to take 2.5, 3 years to do that. And then we're still going to pay more for those vehicles because American labor is more expensive than Mexican labor. So no matter what you do, you're accruing the cost of moving a factory you're not going to use for 3 years. You're not going to have production in the meantime because you can't afford cars that are 25% more expensive. And even when it's assembled, the cars are going to cost more.
Right.
This is a bad situation, and there is no bright size.
And you were mentioning Canada is in a bad spot.
Yeah.
I think you used different language.
Well, I might have. We were off air.
Yes.
Canadian production may come to an end.
You didn't use that word.
If this was long-term, Canadian production would end.
Wow.
You can't afford, like General Motors is building electric delivery vans up there, and the margins on those are pretty slim. Mm-hmm. They can't do that. It's not sustainable.
By the way, so I don't know if you saw Governor Tim Walz last week on stage, that he gets a ding every time Tesla stocks drop, and it makes him happy and stuff like that. And then I saw folks on Facebook like, you can't fix stupid, like, making fun of him and stuff. But it's like, by the way, the rate at which GOP try to own the libs and make fun of things and are just gross is exponentially higher than Tim Walz talking about the stock dropping. Although Tesla tumbles again today.
Big time today.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not cheering about it, but like, what a mess with this company. Like, have you heard anything about this meeting he had, like this impromptu meeting on Friday where he was telling, the stockholders not to sell? And
he was trying to get his employees not to sell.
His employees to sell, okay.
Which is, Enron did the same thing. I just want to point out.
And how did that go for everybody?
Enron told its employees not to sell their stock, and now he's telling his employees not to sell the stock. Here's the weird thing about Tesla. It's such a conflicted issue, right? We don't want to support that company, right? That's a mentality right now, right? People don't want to support Tesla. They don't want to buy Tesla vehicles. On the other hand, we really need Tesla in the U.S. because they employ 125,000 people. Mm-hmm. They build all American vehicles. There's an infrastructure there. It's a good company to have in the United States. So it's all very complicated because we really dislike the guy that's building the cars. But the cars themselves are pretty good cars. They are doing green things. And when you oh man.
Well, the sedans, not the tanks, not the.
No, that's a silly Cybertruck, which is ridiculous. But someone who owns a Model Y was probably buying it for the right green reason. They shouldn't suffer.
Sure. I agree.
But they're stuck with a car with terrible resale value now.
Yeah. I don't flip off the sedans. I do flip off the Cybertrucks.
The Cybertruck's an entire... What a disaster.
I can't help it. You know what I think? They're dangerous now. They're saying that these panels are coming off when they hit a certain speed or after wear and tear and things like that. I mean, I think that Cybertrucks should be pulled over for posing a danger to the community if they haven't been reinforced. I don't know how they're even fixing this with the panels coming off.
Yeah, the panels are interesting. People are making fun of the Cybertruck because they use glue. But industrial adhesives are used in automotive production all the time, so that's not the weird part.
I saw duct tape on my plane the other day, so nothing. So go ahead.
But they used the glue wrong.
I'm sorry, they used the glue wrong?
Well, here's the thing. The Cybertruck clearly rushed into production, right? We know so much about it isn't ready, and it's not good off-road, and that was supposed to be its thing.
Wow.
But there is preparation you have to make to both the body and to whatever you're adhering it to, and they clearly didn't do that.
Yeah.
Of course, this is a car that stops in car washes, so...
So I didn't realize it had so many cameras around it and stuff. Like they're embedded, like there's like 9 cameras throughout the vehicle.
A lot of them had to do with things like the full self-driving feature.
Ah, that makes sense.
So they're already there, but they're being put to other use as well.
You know what I found out about my RAV today? Because I was telling Tom before the show before we came on that I wasn't feeling great, so I had to drive from Madison, and I don't often use my cruise control, but I didn't know I didn't know that it could sense cars and slow down for me when I'm coming up on another car, and it automatically starts to decelerate. I was like, what? Because I haven't used cruise control in forever.
That's like the first stage of autonomous driving is what they call adaptive cruise control. Wonderful feature.
Yeah.
On the highway, because you can set the distance usually.
I don't know.
So 8, 10, 12 car lengths, something like that on the highway. So you're comfortably behind another car.
Yes.
And if that car moves and it was going slower than your set speed, your car will speed up a little bit.
Yeah,
if
that was
it comes
wild.
back in your lane, it'll slow down a little bit. Yeah, it's a wonderful feature.
I love it. And that's on a 2018 RAV.
That's early.
It was early. That's why I didn't think.
Yeah.
I don't know all the bells and whistles on my car. I'm always finding something out. And sometimes it's from TikTok. Sometimes it's just from. You know what? I'm sorry if my husband's listening. Do you know what? He didn't realize that on both our Prius and our RAV that as long as you have the key on you, you just use your thumb or whatever on the door handle to lock it. Like he just found that. I felt bad that he didn't know that.
Well, that is a wonderful feature.
Yeah.
It is amazing how different. And this doesn't affect people who own cars. It affects me because I get into so many different cars.
Sure.
How that works with the rear doors is always different on every
Yes,
one.
it doesn't unlock all the doors.
It's like, why would I wanted this to open without going into my pocket? But no.
No, yeah. No. I think on the Prius I can do the passenger driver, but then you have to manually open the back doors.
Sometimes now if you beep open the front door, you put your thumb on the handle and it opens, and then you open it again, like you put your thumb on it again, it'll open all the doors.
I'll have to try that out.
And then there's weird perceptions of what safety is, and sometimes it only opens just the driver door.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Passenger side door. Yeah.
See, and that makes sense and I like that because, and I think that's how mine works because that way, rather than using your fob and opening all your doors while you're approaching, right, and then someone can jump in the car, just being able to get the driver's side door is super handy.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. Let me take some folks have been on hold for a long time, so let me take these are off topic, but they're going to be about Social Security and national security.
Okay,
we about security. So let's get to Ron in California, who has been on hold for quite a bit, and I appreciate your patience, my friend. Hey, Ron, how are you doing? Are you hydrating? Oh no, Ron gave up on me. Ron, did you put me on mute? Ron, I'll try again before we leave tonight. I apologize. So Ron in California, let me put you on hold again. My apology. He gave up on us, Tom. But I bet Dave in Hoffman Estates is there. Hey, Dave, how are you doing? Are you hydrating? And you're on with me and Tom.
Oh yeah.
Excellent.
Oh yeah. I can shift over to something with Tom if you want. Okay, let me do that. Tom, on this tariff, do you think that these foreign countries are going to start doing like Japan did back in the 80s? Remember with the Toyota pickups when they sent them without the box and they skirted around it saying it was only parts?
Yeah, Ford tried that when they were importing the Transit Connect, and they got away with it for a little while, and then they faced huge fines. They were basically stacking cars at the port and then changing them so that they wouldn't be included in the tariff. Yeah, companies get caught for that, unfortunately. It was a nice trick. It was fun to watch.
Well, it's a thought. What is old is new again. And with Tesla in Europe. Do you think it might be the fact, too, that when Europe runs on 50 cycles versus 60 cycles in America?
No, and you raise a great point. Europe does use a different charging system than we do here, and Japan also uses a different one. But I don't think that's the problem. I think the technology keeps up with that.
And, Patti, lastly, so I can be accurate, saying I did try what I was on this gate that they're doing now.
The whiskey leaks?
Yeah, yeah, really. And do you think maybe this might unite the Democrats as one and not, have 2 and 3 different factions?
Yeah, that's a good point you make. That something like this might be a rallying point for Dems. We shall see. I mean, you heard Congressman Quigley coming out, not guns blazing, but I mean like hot on this topic as Ossoff and Warren. Obviously, they're all that. This might be something that and deservedly so. We should be rubbing their noses in the mess that they made, like the dog that pooped on the carpet. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Dave.
So others can get it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I know we have some questions on the text line. So for you, Tom, so I will come to that when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal 1150 KKNW in Seattle. Alternative Talk. We're part of that team now, and so honored and thrilled to be on the evenings in my old spot, like I was at my previous radio station.
That's nice.
And also, of course, our good friends at KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. More in a moment. With Tom and Patti.
Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Right now, what we definitely have to agree on is that we have to stay connected and we have to fight forward together. My life's work has proven to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that when we do come together and we fight together to move forward rather than fighting against each other, that we get stuff done. And it sticks and it's lasting.
Richard Chew, weekday mornings at 6 on WCPT 820.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Hi, this is Patti Vasquez. We appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Monaco Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Armanetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lions Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MonacoBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as Tom Appel and I continue to drive it home here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. And I know we have, let me just try Ron from California. We have we had at least one call on the line.
Okay.
Ron, are you there, Ron?
I'm in here.
Hi. Thank you for not giving up on us. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Social Security, and I didn't want to leave you hanging because you've been there for quite a while. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, in my past, I was a court-appointed in California volunteer conservator for over 10 years with patients who had psychological difficulties in, military, public, and private hospitals. And when I think about Social Security, many needed SSI, which is under Social Security, financial support, living support. When I think about Social Security being taken over by a for-profit companies that may act like Mr. Musk in cutting everything back, I think that if the Social Security Department were run by a private sector contractor, yes, but one who had to run it through a nonprofit which required public oversight and with restrictions on operational costs with opportunity for increases, but which they weren't gouging in the operations, but the profits were maybe an award for some success of that nonprofit over its time, but it's going back into the trust, and that the trust be operated by an independent board of most likely volunteers with experience, and therefore that nonprofit could hire back those employees at possibly the same salaries that they would have had in the government, and whatever facets of support that they would get. The whole operation would have much more oversight, less likely for profiteering and tearing down what has been built, but to restructure it for those needs that it needs to serve its constituency, the citizens of the USA.
Gotcha. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any clear plan on what they intend to do. It seems he has said that it's the biggest thing that has to go, not be privatized. Like he by he, I mean this Nimrod, Elon Musk. So I understand what you're saying, but speculating for me on what they should do or could do is hard to do when they're destroying it. I mean, they're breaking the crap out of it right now. I mean,
yes, but if you don't have the future in mind,
exactly, they don't have the future in mind.
Whatever they do, you need the future in mind to have a development plan that will work for the citizens without the private sector profiteering to the death of the organization.
Here's the thing:
and keep their hands off those funds.
They think people who receive Social Security are disposable. Literally, it is not a population that it does anything for billionaires. they consider Social Security recipients to be. And that's not just the elderly. That's also people who are disabled or are survivors and getting those benefits. Like there were 2 orphans. Their parents had died, and the Doge bags were like, oh, there's a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old getting Social Security, and they cut off payments to orphans. Anyway, you're getting me mad again, Ron, but I appreciate
Margo, I think you need to be mad, but you must have the future in mind. Whatever the circumstances for tomorrow morning, you need to have the faith that there's a morning beyond tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Thanks so much, Ron. Thanks for hanging on the line. Have a good evening to the best of your ability. Thank you. We're in studio with Tom Pell, Car Guy Tom. Oh, remind folks where they can sign up for your newsletter.
Oh, what is it? Car stuff at consumerguide.com. Just send me an email.
And Car Guy Tom on all the social media platforms?
Yes.
Excellent.
On many.
Our good friend Gunny sent me a couple texts, and thank you, sir. He asked me to calm down earlier, take a deep breath. These are very much unprofessional individuals. And also, Gunny says on the plane, if it looks like duct tape, it's not duct tape, it's aviation tape. I know. But there was a panel. I was on a United
that'll
flight.
Make you feel better.
Yeah, exactly. There was a panel inside, like right below the seat in front of me that was flipping off, like kind of loose. And I'm like, this isn't. And I probably should have said something because that's the kind of thing, if there's something in flight that happens, if that comes off, that's also, flying weapons. I mean, not weapons, but flying debris. Projectile, correct. Yeah. Anyway. But Gunny says, I just bought a 2025 Carnival Kia, and it has that feature on the cruise control. I've seen the Kias are getting really interesting looking.
The Kia Carnival, I keep calling it the Bachelor Dad Party Pad.
Gunny's a Marine. His kids are grown, so yes, go ahead.
But it is a minivan, and it doesn't really have all the features that like a Chrysler Pacifica has, but it's so good looking, and it's so nice inside. Ooh. And it just, it's just kind of like if you have to drive a minivan, and you don't want to, this might be the way to go just because it's cool.
Interesting. And so it's a sliding door in the back?
You got the sliding door. It does all the minivan stuff.
Okay.
But it just kind of looks cooler than that.
Yeah.
Very stylish.
What year of production are we in for 2024? Was the first production year?
No.
22?
22 sounds good. 21.
So Sedona was a 21, so the Carnival was a 2022.
Okay.
And the Sedona doesn't look bad.
And there's a hybrid for that vehicle that comes out this year.
Oh, so that's always my question. Do you know when when Declan was born, we knew we needed to get a minivan just because of Declan's physical challenges. And I was trying to wait. This was 2006, 2005. I was like, is anybody making hybrids? Are we not getting any hybrids? It was a little early.
It took until the Toyota Sienna, also a fine vehicle, only hybrid.
Oh, that's great.
And you can get all-wheel drive as well.
And what do you like better, the Pacifica, the Kia, or the Toyota? The Toyotas are, and the Honda Odyssey is a nice car.
There's no bad pick in that crowd. Okay. I like the Chrysler, and I made the Chrysler at 2025 Consumer Guide Best Buy. It is the nicest riding. It's the quietest. If you're going to take a long ride, which is kind of a measure of a minivan's success in doing what it's supposed to do, the Chrysler is the way to go.
And that's also, you said, a hybrid.
Yeah, but I think if you just want really trustworthy reliability and all-wheel drive, the good ways to go is the Sienna, and then the Kia is very stylish, and the Honda is the oldest of the bunch, but it's the last of them with like a really big burly V6. Yeah, and it's kind of the most fun to drive.
It was a great car. It was a gas guzzler. I mean, I think it was like 18 miles of the gallon or something crazy. Yeah, that was
minivans,
rough.
They're big blocks. They're not aerodynamic. They're heavy.
I love my RAV. I love my Prius too, but it's a 2010, and I'm not that eager to go on 2 hour on the road with that out of town. It's around the town kind of car.
Yeah,
I want to be closer. So what about we were talking earlier about how disruptive these tariffs are going to be. Tom Pell joins us and shared some breaking news that the president had announced that these 25% tariffs on all cars coming into the United States.
That's
not made here.
Not made here is the language.
It's the language. Not made here. But aren't there a lot of parts? So even if a car is made here, but there are parts that come from other countries, is there now going to be this back and forth of we're not going to sell you parts and good luck with making cars without our parts?
It's a logistical nightmare. There's a transmission that Stellantis makes that they license from a German company. It's assembled. Its end assembly is here in the United States, but it goes across the border a couple of times to have different parts installed. Does that count as 4 tariffs? It's an absolutely ridiculous situation.
Which seems to be the MO for this administration.
Yeah. And I have no idea logistically how anyone keeps track of any of this.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like you could actually manage these tariffs.
I'm sure they're going to use AI.
I'm sure
Just going to put it.
And we'll have no idea what happened.
Not at all. Do you know that we're celebrating 20 years here at WCPT, Tom?
I did not know that.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
I do remember Air America.
Yeah.
I remember the roots of this. Yeah.
Well, on our website, if you visit, this is so funny. I didn't know this until just now. If you visit our heartlandsignal.com /anniversary, you can check out the gallery that's been posted, including Dick Kay's conversation. There's a sound gallery. So Dick Kay's conversations with J.B. Pritzker and Lori Lightfoot's available. Of course, Dick Kay, who we lost just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Former Sunday morning host Brandon Johnson, now mayor, conversations with Tony Preckwinkle and Stacey Davis Gates. And you can catch the debut episodes, the very first episodes of Choose Views live. So that's with Richard Chu, live, local and progressive, Joan Esposito's first show, and Driving It Home, my first episode, which apparently aired in August of, I know that I think Roosevelt or Dave are very much better at keeping track of when I started here. I think was it 21 or 22? Hold on. I think that it's 21. So August 2nd of 2021. There are people who like count every single show, and I like, this is episode number 224, and I'm like, I'm so happy to be here. And if I count, I can't imagine having counted like the shows from my previous station. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just really weird to me. I just show up.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be here. I'm very happy to be here. Sadly, all of our tickets are now sold out for our May 3rd anniversary broadcast at Max and Benny's in Northbrook. But we hope you'll tune in that day to hear Hal Sparks, Richard Chu, Scott Duff, Joan Esposito, and I, all broadcasting live from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. with special guests.
It's a good lineup.
It is a good lineup. What are you driving today? Before we go, I should ask you that.
Interesting car. I'm driving the Kia K4.
What's a K4?
Exactly.
Okay.
The Kia has replaced the Forte, which was a small car that sold. It's like the Civic or the Corolla. It's that size car. Dramatically styled, really nice color, which doesn't really affect much, but it is an excellent small car. And if you're looking for a small car that you can still get for around $25,000, this is your car. Now, the one I'm driving is over 30, but yeah, the
headlights are interesting.
It's all very interesting. It's very stylish. It's very modern, and it's a small car. It's not a crossover, not available with all-wheel drive, but you can get it very affordably, and I'm breaking 30 miles per gallon. So it's a nice, affordable, stylish thing. There's no penalty here. Nice car.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tom. Again, that's Car Guy Tom on all the social medias. Subscribe to his newsletter by going to
Car Stuff at ConsumerGuide.com.
Car Stuff at ConsumerGuide.com.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you, Lady B. Thank you to all our friends listening on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, KKNW 1150 in Seattle. Of course, here on WCPT. Have a great night. Randy Rhodes is up next, followed by Matt McNeil. Love you, Lady B.